Let me ask you something. How many thoughts run through your head every single day? Hundreds, thousands, maybe even more. Some of those thoughts lift you up, some tear you down, and most of them you don't even notice. And that's the problem, because the quality of your life is shaped by the quality of your thoughts. And if you don't take control of them, they control you. Think about it. How many times have you felt stuck, overwhelmed, confused, even lost, simply because everything inside your mind was spinning so fast you couldn't catch it? Now imagine this. Imagine if you had a tool right in your hands that could take all of that chaos, all of that noise, and turn it into clarity. A tool that could take your pain and turn it into power. A tool so simple, so accessible, yet so unbelievably life-changing that once you start using it, you'll never want to stop. That tool is journaling. And tonight, not here to give you some fluffy idea about writing down a few notes. I'm here to show you how journaling can rewire your mind, reshape your future, and reignite your life in ways you never thought possible. By the end of this talk, you'll see why some of the most successful people on earth, from leaders to creators to world changers, all have one thing in common: they write. And I promise you this: if you give me your full attention for the next few minutes, you'll walk away with a practice that can help you gain clarity, build momentum, and create the kind of life you've been craving. So let's dive in, because the life you want is already waiting. It's just a few pages away. Clarity. That's the difference between people who live life on fire and people who live life in frustration. You can't hit a target you can't see. And the truth is, most people are trying to live their life without even realizing they're operating in a fog. They're waking up every day with a million thoughts racing through their head, trying to balance responsibilities, chasing dreams, dealing with setbacks, holding on to past regrets, and worrying about the future. It's like being in a storm where the waves are crashing and you can't tell which way is land. And when you're in that place long enough, you start to believe that chaos is normal. You start to believe that confusion is just part of life. But it's not. That's not the standard you're meant to live in. That's not how you were designed. Think about this for a moment. How many times have you caught yourself feeling overwhelmed, but you couldn't even explain why? Someone asks, "What's wrong?" and you don't even know how to answer. It's just a heavy feeling in your chest. Or maybe you've had nights where you lay in bed staring at the ceiling, running through endless thoughts, rehearsing conversations, worrying about bills, opportunities, relationships, and you can't shut it off. And yet the moment you wake up in the morning, life is demanding you move. So what do? You get up, you push forward, you get busy again. That storm inside never gets cleared. And here's what happens when your mind is cluttered: your decisions are weak. When your mind is noisy, your vision is blurred. And when you live too long without clarity, you start living in reaction instead of creation. You're not building your life. You're just managing it. That's why journaling is so powerful. Because when you take that storm inside your head and you put it on paper, something miraculous happens. You take ownership of it. The fog begins to lift. The emotions you couldn't name suddenly have words. The confusion that felt so heavy suddenly breaks into pieces that you can actually understand. You stop being overwhelmed by all of it and start seeing the parts of it. And once you can see the parts, you can act on them. What journaling really does is it forces you to slow down your thinking. It forces your brain to take what feels like chaos and make it linear. You can't write down 10,000 thoughts at once, so you filter. You prioritize, you pull out what matters most. And in that process, clarity is born. It's like shining a flashlight in a dark room. Suddenly, you can see where you're standing. You can see what's around you. You can see what's been tripping you up. And most importantly, you can see where you want to go. That's what clarity gives you: direction. Without clarity, your energy is scattered. You spend your days reacting to distractions, fighting battles that don't matter, chasing goals you don't even want. But with clarity, your energy becomes focused, your decisions become powerful, and your time becomes sacred. You stop running in circles and start moving in a straight line toward the life you actually want. And don't underestimate how fast journaling can shift you. You don't need hours a day. You don't need to write a novel. Even 10 minutes of honest writing can cut through a mountain of mental noise. Let's say you sit down and you write, "I feel stuck." That's your starting point. Now you ask yourself, why? You write the first answer that comes to mind. Then you ask again, why does that matter? You write the next thought. Layer by layer, you uncover the truth. Maybe you thought you were stressed about work, but really you're scared of failing. Maybe you thought you were angry at someone, but really you're disappointed in yourself. That kind of honesty rarely shows up in casual conversation, but it pours out on paper if you let it. And once it's out, once it's there in black and white, it can't hide anymore. You can finally deal with it. This is why some of the most successful people in history have turned to journaling. Not because it's trendy, not because it's nice, but because clarity is priceless. Leaders need clarity. Creators need clarity. Parents, entrepreneurs, students, every human being who wants to live an extraordinary life needs clarity. Without it, you're driving blind. With it, you can take the wheel and accelerate. Now let's be real. There will be days you don't want to journal, days you'll tell yourself you don't have time, days you'll think it doesn't matter, but those are usually the days you need it most. The days where your brain feels like a crowded room. You're juggling thoughts and emotions you can't even name. That's when you sit down, take out the pen, and pour it all out. Because here's what happens. You feel lighter. You feel clearer. You walk away with a sense of order in a world that felt overwhelming only minutes ago. That's not an accident. That's the power of creating clarity through writing. And here's something most people don't realize. Clarity doesn't just give you peace of mind in the moment. It compounds. The more often you journal, the more self-aware you become. You start noticing patterns, thoughts that repeat, habits that hold you back, fears that keep showing up. You also start seeing your growth, your breakthroughs, your progress. Over time, your journal becomes a mirror reflecting who you are and who you're becoming. And when you can see that journey clearly, your confidence skyrockets. You realize you're not just surviving, you're evolving. Life will always have chaos. Circumstances will always shift. Challenges will always come. You can't eliminate the storms, but you can eliminate the fog. And when you have clarity, even the storms don't scare you because you know where you're headed. You know what matters. You know what to ignore. And that kind of focus, that kind of certainty is the difference between living a life of reaction and living a life of creation. So when I tell you journaling creates clarity, I'm not talking about a little trick or hobby. I'm talking about a practice that can transform the way you think, the way you decide, and the way you live. Because the moment you clear your mind, you free your potential, and when clarity shows up, everything changes. Every single one of us has gone through pain. Some of it we show to the world, but most of it we carry silently. We carry disappointments that cut deep, betrayals that shook our trust, failures that made us question ourselves, moments that left scars no one else can see. And the truth is, pain is not optional. If you're alive, you've faced it, you're facing it now, or you will face it again. That's life. Here's the real question. What are you doing with it? Because pain in itself doesn't make you stronger. It doesn't make you wiser. Pain left unprocessed doesn't heal you. It haunts you. It lingers. It shows up in your decisions, your relationships, and your self-image. And if you don't find a way to release it, it ends up controlling you. That's where journaling becomes more than just writing. It becomes a tool for transformation. Because when you take the raw, filtered pain you've been holding inside and put it down on paper, you begin to take away its power over you. You're no longer just carrying it in the dark corners of your mind where it grows and festers. You're bringing it into the light. Once it's in the light, you can see it differently. You can understand it. You can learn from it. Writing doesn't erase what happened to you, but it changes the meaning you give it. And meaning is everything. Think about it. Two people can go through the exact same experience. Let's say a failed business, a broken relationship, a betrayal from someone they trusted. One person uses it as a reason to shrink back, to give up, to protect themselves from ever being hurt again. The other person uses it as fuel, as a lesson, as a stepping stone to come back stronger. The difference is not the event. The difference is the meaning. And journaling is one of the most powerful ways to shift that meaning. You sit down and write about your pain. You're not just replaying it. You're reframing it. You're asking yourself, what did this teach me? How did this shape me? What strength did I gain from surviving it? What wisdom do I now carry because of it? The beginning, it might come out as anger. It might come out as grief. It might come out as confusion. But if you keep writing, if you keep peeling back the layers, something starts to happen. You begin to discover the gift inside the pain. And yes, there's always a gift. Sometimes it's resilience. Sometimes it's empathy. Sometimes it's a deeper sense of purpose. But you'll never find it if you just keep carrying the pain in silence. You find it when you release it onto the page. Don't underestimate how freeing that process is. You know those moments when emotions feel too big to say out loud, when you feel like nobody would understand, or maybe you're even ashamed of how you feel. Your journal doesn't judge you. It doesn't interrupt you. It doesn't argue back. It becomes the safest place for you to pour everything out exactly as it is. And the moment you do that, you start to loosen the grip that pain has on you. You start to see that you are not your pain. You are the person experiencing it, shaping it, and ultimately transforming it. I've seen people who carried decades of bitterness, decades of regret, decades of self-blame. When they finally sat down to write, it was like opening a floodgate. All of that poison they'd been holding inside came rushing out. And once it was out, they could finally breathe again. They could finally forgive. They could finally move forward. Because here's the truth, pain is heavy, but you don't have to carry it forever. Journaling gives you a way to set it down, to look at it, and to choose what to do with it next. Now, here's the most important part. When you write your pain, you don't just release it, you repurpose it, you begin to turn it into power. Maybe you write about the struggles of growing up without support, and you realize that's why you're so committed to being present for your own kids. Maybe you write about the heartbreak of losing someone, and you realize that's why you value love so fiercely. Maybe you write about the times you failed, and you realize that's why you've built the resilience to keep pushing until you succeed. Pain is the raw material, but your pen is the tool, shapes it into something meaningful. And when you've turned that pain into power on the page, it doesn't just stay there, it shows up in your life. You start speaking with more conviction because you've lived through something real. You start connecting with others more deeply because you know what it's like to hurt and you know what it's like to heal. You start trusting yourself more because you've proven you can survive hard things and still move forward. This is how journaling changes you from the inside out. It doesn't erase your wounds. It turns them into wisdom. It doesn't remove your struggles. It turns them into strength. I want you to think about the alternative. What happens if you don't release your pain? What happens if you just keep pushing it down, numbing it, ignoring it? It doesn't disappear. It leaks out. It shows up as stress, as anxiety, as anger you can't explain, as distance in your relationships, as fear every time you try to take a risk. Pain doesn't go away when you hide it. It only goes away when you face it, feel it, and transform it. And journaling is one of the most powerful ways to do exactly that. So the next time you feel like you're drowning in emotions you can't name, sit down with a pen and paper. Don't worry about writing neatly. Don't worry about spelling or grammar. Even worry if it makes sense. Just get it out. Pour the storm onto the page until the clouds inside you start to clear. And then go back and look. Ask yourself, what's the lesson here? What's the gift? What strength have I gained from this? When you start answering those questions, that's when you take your pain and you turn it into power. Because at the end of the day, your pain is not meant to break you. It's meant to build you, but only if you choose to use it. And the pen in your hand is the bridge between the hurt you've been through and the strength you're capable of. The moment you start writing it, you start owning it. And the moment you own it, you can transform it. Gratitude is the gateway to abundance. Most people miss it because they're too busy focusing on what's missing, what's wrong, what they don't yet have. Our brains are wired to protect us, and that means they're constantly scanning for danger, for problems. What could go wrong? That's useful for survival, but it's terrible for happiness. If you don't take charge of your focus, your mind will naturally gravitate toward lack. And the problem with living in lack is that no matter what you achieve, no matter what you accomplish, you'll always feel like it's not enough. You'll have the job, but still feel empty. You'll have the relationship, but still feel unfulfilled. You'll have the opportunities, but still feel like you're missing something. This is where journaling becomes a life-altering practice, because gratitude doesn't just happen, you cultivate it. And the act of writing down what you're grateful for shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance. It's like tuning a radio. If you stay tuned to the frequency of what's wrong, you'll only hear noise and negativity. But when you tune in to the frequency of gratitude, suddenly you start noticing beauty, opportunity, and blessings everywhere you go. Writing it down doesn't just capture it, it trains your brain to see it more often. Think about the last time you were in a moment of pure gratitude. Maybe it was something simple, a laugh with a friend, the smell of fresh coffee in the morning, the sound of your child's voice, or even just the fact that you woke up healthy today. When you're in gratitude, fear disappears. Anger disappears. Stress disappears. You can't be deeply grateful and deeply afraid at the same time. You can't be grateful and resentful at the same time. Gratitude is an emotional reset button. It brings you back to what's real, what's present, what's good. But here's the catch. Gratitude only lasts as long as you focus on it. That's why journaling it daily is so powerful. It anchors gratitude into your nervous system. It shifts it from a fleeting feeling to a daily practice. Some people think writing, I'm grateful for my family, I'm grateful for my health, grateful for my home, is too basic. They think it's cliché. But let me tell you something. If you can't appreciate the basics, you'll never appreciate the bigger things when they come. The person who can find joy in small blessings is the one who attracts greater blessings. Gratitude expands what you already have because what you appreciate appreciates. When you acknowledge it, it multiplies. It's not magic, it's focus. You train your focus to notice abundance. You naturally move toward opportunities, solutions, and growth. And journaling gratitude is different from just thinking it. Thinking is passive. Writing is active. When you write it down, you engage your mind, your body, and your emotions at the same time. You give form to your gratitude, and that makes it real. You go back and read it later. You can look at pages filled with proof that life is good, that progress is happening, that blessings surround you. When you're in a tough moment, when life feels heavy, those pages become a lifeline. They remind you of the truth you might not feel in the moment, that you've already been blessed more than you realize. I've met people who had very little materially, but because they lived in gratitude, they radiated joy. And I've met people who had everything you could imagine, wealth, status, recognition, but because they never practiced gratitude, miserable. It's not what's in your bank account that determines abundance, it's what's in your perspective. And journaling gratitude is how you rewire that perspective every single day. Here's the beauty of it once you make it a habit. It starts to spill over to every area of your life. You find yourself being grateful in the middle of challenges because you're conditioned to look for the good. You start appreciating people more because you're trained to notice their effort instead of just their flaws. You even begin to see setbacks differently because gratitude teaches you that even in loss, there's something gained. Maybe it's a lesson, maybe it's resilience, maybe it's a deeper appreciation for what really matters. And when you're grateful, you also become more resourceful. Think about if when you focus on what you don't have, your energy contracts. You feel limited, you feel stuck. When you focus on what you do have, your energy expands. You see possibilities, you use your creativity, you make the most out of what's already available to you, and that creates momentum. Abundance doesn't come from waiting until you have enough. It comes from using what you already have with a grateful heart, and journaling is what reminds you of that truth every day. Sometimes gratitude is what saves you in your darkest moments. There are times in life when everything feels like it's falling apart, when you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But even then, there is always something you can hold on to. Maybe it's as simple as, I'm still breathing. Maybe it's, I have one person who cares about me. Maybe it's, I have a chance to try again tomorrow. Those small points of gratitude can become anchors that keep you from drowning. When you write them down, they become a reminder that even in the storm, there is hope. That's why journaling gratitude isn't just a feel-good exercise. It's a survival skill, a success skill, and a fulfillment skill all rolled into one. It transforms the way you see your life. It doesn't change what happens to you, but it changes what you notice. And what you notice creates your experience. The more you notice abundance, the more abundant your life becomes. So if you want to unlock a life of joy, of fulfillment, of abundance, not someday, but right now, pick up your journal and start writing what you're grateful for. Do it every day, even on the hard days, especially on the hard days. Because gratitude isn't about waiting until life is perfect. It's about realizing life is already giving you more than enough. And the moment you choose to see that, to feel that, and to write that, is the moment abundance stops being a dream and starts being a reality. Most people live their lives reacting to circumstances instead of creating them. They wake up every day, check their phone, check their emails, react to messages, react to problems, spend their time putting out fires. And when years go by, they look back and wonder why they never got where they wanted to go. It's not because they didn't have the ability. It's because they didn't have a roadmap. They never took the time to get clear on what they wanted, why they wanted it, and how they were going to move toward it. Without direction, even the most powerful engine won't get you anywhere. Your journal can become that direction. It can be the place where you design your future before it ever shows up in reality. Think about that. Every dream, every invention, every breakthrough in human history started in someone's imagination. But imagination alone isn't enough. Ideas are fragile. They fade if you don't capture them. How many times have you thought of something exciting, told yourself you'd remember it, and then a week later it was gone? Inspiration is like lightning. It flashes for a moment. When you write it down, you catch it, you anchor it, you turn a passing thought into a vision you can return to again and again. Your journal is more than a notebook. It's a laboratory for your future. It's where you can brainstorm, visualize, map out possibilities without limits. You don't need permission. You don't need approval. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to write. And the act of writing crystallizes your vision. The more specific you get, real it becomes. Instead of saying, I want to be successful, you write, I want to build a business that impacts lives, generates freedom, and allows me to spend more time with my family. Instead of saying, I want to be healthier, you write, I will wake up at 6 a.m., train for 45 minutes, fuel my body with energy, and hit my target weight by the end of the year. That kind of clarity turns vague wishes into concrete goals. Here's the fascinating thing. When you keep writing about your future, you begin to train your subconscious mind to move toward it. Your brain doesn't know the difference between vividly imagined experiences and real ones. That's why athletes visualize their performance before they step onto the field. They see it in their mind until their body knows it by heart. You can do the same thing with your journal. Write your goals, write your vision, write your future as if it's already happening, and watch how your decisions start to align with it. You'll notice opportunities you used to miss. You'll feel pulled by a sense of purpose instead of pushed by stress. Journaling your future isn't only about big goals, it's also about strategy. You can use your journal to plan out the steps you need to take to track your progress and to course correct when life inevitably throws challenges at you. Every great roadmap has checkpoints, milestones, and directions. Your journal gives you the chance to break down something overwhelming into something manageable. You might have a vision that feels impossible right now. When you write it down and break it into daily actions, suddenly it becomes achievable. And the moment you see it on paper, you realize you're not chasing a dream, you're building one. This practice also keeps you accountable. Too many people set goals in their head and forget them as soon as life gets busy. But when you've written it down, you've made a commitment. You've made it real. You can look back at it and ask yourself, am I living in alignment with what I said I wanted? Am I making progress or just making excuses? Your journal becomes a mirror that reflects whether you're on track or drifting. And that kind of self-honesty is priceless because you can't change what you're not willing to see. And let's not forget, life changes, dreams evolve, priorities shift. That's the beauty of using your journal as a roadmap. It's not carved in stone, it's alive. You can adjust it as you grow. You might start with one vision and realize 6 months later that your heart is calling you somewhere else. That's not failure, that's growth. Your journal becomes the record of that evolution. You can look back and see how your dreams matured, how your focus sharpened, how your direction became clearer over time. That in itself is motivating because it shows you that you're not standing still, you're moving forward, even when it doesn't feel like it. Now imagine this. A year from now, you open your journal and flip back to today's entry. You see the goals you set, the future you described, the plans you mapped out. And you realize you're living it was once ink on a page is now reality. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's the power of intention meeting action. And it started with the simple act of writing it down. But it doesn't even have to take a year. Sometimes the clarity you get from writing your future makes you act differently today. You might make a phone call you've been putting off. You might start a project you've been delaying. You might say no to something that doesn't fit your vision. Every action compounds. Every decision builds momentum. And it all comes from having a roadmap instead of wandering aimlessly. I want you to see your journal as more than a place for your thoughts. See it as a blueprint. See it as a design studio. See it as a training ground for the future you want to live. Don't just use it to record where you've been. Use it to create where you're going. Because when you do, your journal stops being a book and starts being a compass. It points you forward. Reminds you of who you want to become. It keeps you aligned when distractions try to pull you off course. At the end of the day, you can drift or you can design. If you drift, life will hand you whatever it wants. But if you design, life will begin to take the shape of your vision. And that design doesn't start in the outside world. It starts in the pages of your journal. Because the future is not something you wait for. It's something you write for. Discipline is the bridge between desire and achievement. Everybody wants change. Everybody wants growth. Everybody wants a better life. But very few people are willing to build the habits that make it real. They wait for motivation. They wait for the perfect time. They wait until they feel like it. And that's why they stay stuck. Because discipline isn't about waiting. It's about doing. It's about showing up. Even when you don't feel like it, trusting that small, consistent actions create massive results over time. Journaling may seem like a small act, but it's one of the simplest and most powerful ways to train yourself in discipline. Every time you sit down, pick up your pen, write. Even if it's only for a few minutes, you're proving to yourself that you can follow through. You're building a muscle. You're teaching your mind and your body that when you say you'll do something, you actually do it. That trust in yourself compounds. It doesn't just stay in your journal. It spills into every other area of your life. Think about it like this. If you can't commit to something as simple as writing a few lines a day, how can you expect yourself to follow through on the bigger commitments? Discipline doesn't start with the big things. It starts with the small, daily habits that feel insignificant in the moment, but build momentum over time. Journaling is one of those habits. It's not flashy. Nobody's applauding you while you're writing, but behind the scenes, you're training yourself to be consistent, to be intentional, to be reliable. And that's what creates transformation. Momentum is built through repetition. The first time you journal, it might feel awkward. The second time, maybe it still feels forced. But after a week, after a month, after a season of showing up, it starts to feel natural. And the amazing thing is, momentum doesn't just make the habit easier, it makes everything easier. When you get into a rhythm of doing small things consistently, you gain confidence. That confidence gives you energy, and that energy fuels bigger actions soon. Journaling isn't just a practice. It's a spark that ignites other areas of discipline in your life. Maybe you start journaling and you realize you want to add 10 minutes of reading to your day, or you decide to wake up earlier. You commit to exercising regularly. Why? Because you've proven to yourself through journaling that you can follow through. The identity of discipline starts to form. You go from saying, I want to be disciplined, to I am disciplined. That shift in identity is powerful. Once you see yourself as a disciplined person, you start living up to it in everything you do. It doesn't take hours of writing to create this. Even just a few lines every day is enough to build the pattern. What matters is not how much you write, it's that you show up. It's the consistency that counts. The beauty of journaling is that the feedback is immediate. You can look back after a week and see your progress. You can see the pages filled with your words, your thoughts, your commitments. That visible proof reminds you, I did it. I showed up. I kept my word. And that creates momentum like nothing else. But let's be honest, there will be days when you don't want to do it. Days when you feel too tired, too busy, too distracted. That's when journaling becomes even more important. Because discipline isn't built on the days when it's easy. It's built on the days when it's hard. When you sit down and write, even when you don't feel like it, you're not just building a habit, you're building resilience. You're telling yourself, I control my actions, not my emotions. And that's one of the most powerful beliefs you can ever develop. Here's the other thing, journaling doesn't just train your discipline, it captures it. You can go back and see the record of your consistency. You can flip through the pages and say, I showed up every day. I didn't quit. I kept going. And that history becomes fuel. On days when you doubt yourself, when you question your progress, you wonder if it's worth it, your journal stands as proof that you've been putting in the work. That proof builds faith in yourself. And when you have faith in yourself, your momentum becomes unstoppable. This is why so many high achievers rely on routines. It's not because they love routines, it's because routines free them. Once you build discipline in one area, it creates energy and structure for the rest of your life. Journaling is a simple routine. Its impact is massive. It gives you a daily anchor, a ritual that grounds you and propels you forward. And over time, that daily anchor becomes a launch pad, becomes the thing that keeps you steady when life gets chaotic, and the thing that reminds you that no matter what's happening around you, you can always show up for yourself. The truth is, The gap between where you are and where you want to be isn't as wide as it seems. It's not made up of huge leaps. It's made up of small, consistent steps. And journaling is one of the best ways to take those steps day after day without losing sight of your direction. It keeps you disciplined. It keeps you moving. And when you keep moving, even slowly, momentum takes over. Suddenly, what once felt impossible starts to feel inevitable. You can live your life hoping that discipline will show up when you need it, or you can train it every single day with simple actions that build momentum. And one of the most effective, powerful, yet underestimated ways to do that is through journaling. Because the moment you make it a daily practice, you're not just writing, you're conditioning yourself. You're building a track record of consistency. And that track record becomes the foundation for every success you'll ever create. So don't underestimate the power of this small habit. Discipline doesn't happen overnight and momentum doesn't appear by accident. They are built day by day, line by line, page by page. And once you've built them, they carry you further than motivation ever could. There's something extraordinary about a journal that goes beyond the act of writing, beyond the clarity it gives you, beyond the discipline it builds. Your journal doesn't just serve you in the moment. It becomes a record of your life, a mirror of your growth, a map of your journey. One day, when you look back, you'll realize those pages have become your story. And that story is your legacy. Most people don't even realize they're leaving a legacy right now. They think legacy is something that happens at the end of life, something grand, something you build with money or achievements. But your legacy is being written in the decisions you make, the lessons you learn, and the way you show up every single day. Your journal captures that. It becomes proof of the battles you fought, the victories you earned, the wisdom you gained. Years from now, when you flip through those pages, you'll see who you were, who you became, and how you got there. Think about it. Memory fades. Details slip away. Even the most powerful moments in your life eventually blur with time. But when you've written them down, they stay. They're preserved. Lessons don't get lost. The insights don't disappear. The breakthroughs don't fade into the background. Your journal becomes a time capsule holding the truth of your journey in your own words. And that is priceless, not only for you, for the people who will come after you. Imagine your children or your grandchildren, or even someone you've never met, picking up your journal one day and reading your words. Not just the highlight reel, just the surface level image you showed the world, but the real you. The struggles, the breakthroughs, the fears, the dreams. How powerful would that be for them? How much wisdom could they gain from your lived experience? Journal could be the book you never publish, the speech you never gave, the message that keeps teaching long after you're gone. And even if no one else ever reads it, it's still your legacy to yourself. It's the gift of being able to look back and see your evolution, to see how far you've come, to remember the days when you thought you'd never make it, and to see in writing that you did, to recognize the moments when you almost quit. You found the strength to keep going, to realize that the things that once felt impossible became part of your story. That reflection builds pride. It builds confidence. It reminds you that you've already overcome more than you give yourself credit for. There's something deeply grounding about being able to look back at your own handwriting, your own thoughts, your own voice from years ago. It's like meeting an old version of yourself. Sometimes you'll laugh at how small your worries were. Sometimes you'll cry because you remember how heavy that season felt. And sometimes you'll be blown away because you'll see that the vision you wrote down has become your reality. That's legacy in motion. Your journal also shows you the themes of your life. When you've written long enough, you start to see the patterns, the values that matter most to you, the lessons life keeps teaching you, the principles you keep returning to. Those patterns are the essence of who you are. They're what you stand for. They're what people will remember about you. And when you live with that kind of awareness, you stop drifting through life. You start living intentionally, knowing that every page you write is part of the story you're leaving behind. And here's something beautiful. You don't need to have everything figured out to start creating this legacy. In fact, the imperfections, the messiness, raw honesty is what makes it real. Nobody's inspired by a perfect story. People are inspired by truth, by authenticity, by resilience. Your journal captures that better than anything else. It doesn't have to be polished. It has to be real. Because what's real is what impacts. The legacy of your journal isn't about perfection. It's about progression. It's about showing that you were someone who kept learning, kept growing, kept striving to become more. That message is powerful because it tells others they can do the same. When they see your words, they'll see that greatness isn't about never falling. It's about always rising, and you'll see that too. Every time you look back, you'll remember you've always had the strength to get up, even when it felt impossible. Your journal is also a reminder that your life matters, that your story is significant. Too many people downplay their experiences, thinking they don't have anything worth sharing. But the truth is, your story has value. The lessons you've learned, the challenges you've faced, the growth you've earned, those things carry wisdom. They can inspire, they can guide, they can heal. Even if no one else ever reads your words, they've already served their purpose because they've shaped you into someone stronger, wiser, more aware. So when you think of journaling, don't just see it as a practice for today. See it as an investment in your future. See it as the autobiography you're writing one page at a time. See it as the evidence of a life lived fully, honestly, intentionally, because one day those words will mean more than you can imagine. They'll tell the story of who you were, what you overcame, and how you became the person you were meant to be. And that's what a legacy truly is. It's not about statues or titles or headlines. It's about impact. It's about leaving behind something that matters, something that lasts, something that tells the truth about your journey. Your journal has the power to be that, and it starts with a pen, a page, and the decision to capture your life as you live it. Because at the end of the day, when everything else fades, your journal remains, and it will tell the story of your life in the most authentic way possible, through your own words.